Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we're going to be talking and kind of breaking down something that a lot of people have been kind of clamoring on about on the online sector. As you guys probably know, PlayStation's been under some pretty big, I would say probably heat. It's weird because it's more so on the Bungie side. So you guys probably know Bungie has had a complete catastrophe. I made a few videos on it, but I could summarize some quick stuff on it. Or like they're maybe not making Destiny 3, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The fact that they're laying off a bunch of people, they're not profitable, they're toning down Destiny 2 and basically making the game a shell of its former self. Marathon has had really bad reception, and a lot of people are saying right now that PlayStation made a massive mistake that they even bought Bungie. Now, I'd probably say Bungie's been like the weird stepchild or adopted child, whatever the proper word is that wouldn't get people yell at me for, where they've kind of just floated around. Like, they're like that weird maybe brother who just doesn't have a job that kind of maybe couch surfs. Maybe that's a better metaphor. And like they were on Xbox, they went to Activision, and then they were independent, and then they were now with PlayStation. And right now people are saying it was a massive mistake. They overpaid for it. There was rumors that they overpaid for it too as well, basically gloating and like kind of being like, yeah, we were making this much money at the player basis, whatever, and also sold more of like a peak of the gaming like bull market. And people are not happy with it. And I would kind of agree. I do think Destiny so far as a whole has been kind of a little bit of a slacker, and it's just not good. Like, it was having issues making money, microtransaction hell, the content was cool for the raids and such, but everything else kind of slacking. And this was probably their biggest competitor towards trying to go against, say, like Xbox. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to react to something over here too as well from Colin Mortry. And of course, give me your thoughts and comments down below. We also do have the Target links for the summer holiday sales going on. Link down below, hashtag ad. We also have the Twitter and Twitch stream. Subscribe and give me your thoughts and comments down below. So as I mentioned, I saw this come out from another podcast. And I always wish I had like a gaming podcast or Twitch podcast. I just no one ever wants to make one with me. But I was thinking, I've said this many times, but now there can really be no doubt. Sony buying Bungie was a huge mistake. I'm going to kind of react to their Twitter video too. Sony spent $3.6 billion on a team that's already running in the red. Bungie would need to release a top-tier smash hit forever game to ever hope to regain that capital. And the fact that we're hearing rumors that Destiny 3 may have just never even been in the works for longer than a few months, yeah, if I was PlayStation, I'd be upset. I don't want Marathon launching, I don't want Destiny 3 in the works, and I want Destiny 2 running fantastic until Destiny 3 comes out. And the fact that they're not, apparently, allegedly, releasing a Destiny 3 anytime soon, like not even in the works for it, you are absolute idiots. It's like buying Call of Duty and saying, hey, we're not going to make another Call of Duty. Anyway, I kind of want to go and chime in some of those thoughts over here too, because I saw this on Twitter and I kind of wanted to agree, because I agree. I think at this point, if there's no Destiny 3, if Marathon's a flop, they wasted money. End all be all. I love Bungie. I love Bungie games, but like, dang.
Just to reiterate, like, Sony should have never bought this team.
Agreed.
And one thing that I don't see people circulating very much is that without Sony, Bungie would be fucked.
I would probably say true, because we're hearing rumors of like that basically Bungie itself having issues. For whatever reason, they weren't running, like making money. They weren't profitable. So Independent would have probably went to like bankruptcy, in all honesty, if they weren't able to make enough money, or even did even bigger layoffs, etc.
Right now, like way worse than this. Mm-hmm. Would have either had to, because they've been living on Sony's money since basically being purchased. They have not created requisite revenue from what they were purchased for anywhere close to it. And this is
and they probably have made okay-ish money, but we're talking $4 billion. Like, also, it takes a lot of time, because you also have to, include operating revenue and such like that. And they're just on heaven's door. Like, I think they made a mistake.
The thing that I think people are missing, because people are like, oh, just give it time and Marathon will turn things around or whatever. I'm like, maybe. But
all the playtesting so far from Marathon can be completely changed. We're not good. And Escape from Tarkov is a very niche game that does it very well. I don't know if they have a chance to turn to profitability, because even Escape from Tarkov is having issues becoming profitable, because that will be a one-time purchase lifestyle game. It makes sense, though, for like a live service game to have multiple expansions. Think like World of Warcraft. Think things like Fortnite, which at least they have new events and like cool stuff like that. We can count that as an expansion. Destiny for all their glimmer and also DLCs. It makes sense to maintain the game. Like, I'll be curious how Helldivers runs long term.
But it's not quite that simple. If you spend between $3 and $4 billion on a team who is not making anywhere close to the revenue to make up for that over even years. They're in the red, as he says in the letter.
Yeah.
And once again, you could still make money on the games, but like the actual profit, like operating revenue is what matters, operating profit. And they were on the red. So even though they made $1 billion on a really good Destiny 3, if it cost $1.2 billion to make it, they lost $200 million.
And so it's more than that now, right? So it's not just the price of buying in, it's Sony supporting the team's existence in the red. You have lost a bunch of the talent who is
because a lot of people got laid off. Even look at the most recent layoffs, you have to also to spend more money to rebuild the team. Now there still is like 600 people, but it still is
gone.
Bad.
Now you have Sony people, because the word on the street is that, and I think what's the Giant Bomb journalist name? Why can't I think of his name?
Jeff Grubb.
Jeff Grubb. He had said something like, basically Herman Hulst is like in charge of the team now.
And at this point, too, when it comes to this, you have to remember that the morale is low. So people working there, not happy. Maybe Sony investors, not happy seeing when their studio's not doing well. And on top of this, too, who wants to go and apply for a job at Bungie? Some people would, but generally people are like, wow, I might get laid off soon. You know,
now, I wouldn't be surprised about that, but this is what we talked about in the beginning. What will be the purpose of an acquisition of Sony under this umbrella without Bungie's talent?
And that is a good point. Like, they're the ones making the game, and they lost even the creative narrative director. So the guy making the story, it seems like they lost him. So where's the story going to go? And Destiny's story is already convoluted as is, and like, this is billions of dollars they're wasting if they can't even get a Destiny 3 out or Marathon.
Then you just have Sony running the company that they had originally purchased for their expertise. This has been a really bad deal. And people were like, yeah, give it time and they'll make that money back over the billions of dollars that they're kind of in with Sony. And it's like, yeah, that could happen. But it's, again, not that simple, because Sony could have split that, let's call it $3 billion, into 15 Last of Us level projects.
Yeah, and that's a good, actual, like, valid thing. Because over time, you can make a lot of money and make a lot of games. Invest $100 million into a bunch of different games, $200 million, and you could have bangers and bangers and bangers. Now, live service is cool, and that was like their big live service idea, if you guys remember. They were like, Sony wants this, blah, 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 look at Helldivers. And it works, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make it work well.
So it's a you can't invest that money somewhere else. You could have gotten that better returns on much more limited capital that Sony has to deploy. This was a bad deal.
I think if they would have got Bungie at a cheaper price, I think it would have been good.
And I am sick of seeing anyone defend it anymore. People have busted my balls saying that since the beginning, and I get it. It was a little more nebulous. Who knows the way it was going to go? We know now that this was a bad.
I think it was a bad deal. I think at the time, I think it was overpriced. I think he was trying to compete with all these other companies. They had the budget for acquisition. So at the end of the day, it makes sense. But like, yeah.
Bad deal. And not only was this a bad deal for Sony, but they gave them all these perks. Remember we were saying when the
and they also did have those like retention bonuses for a lot of money. And where's the retention?
Purchase happened, that it was in like the first 2 sentences, I think, where they're like, we're multi-platform.
Yeah.
You know, and
multi-platform, though, I think is okay in my mind. I'll let him kind of keep on cooking. But like in Xbox and stuff, you make money on Xbox. You sell expansions on Xbox. You sell expansions on PC. I don't think it's a big deal.
We're not going to be in PlayStation Studios and all that kind of stuff. Like, Sony gave them all of this rope, and all they did was hang themselves with it.
Oh, unless he means on the idea that they had all this freedom and they didn't actually utilize the freedom. I can get that.
And I just want to reiterate again, if this purchase didn't happen, Bungie would be fucked.
I think Bungie right now would be pretty close to bankruptcy, especially if Marathon doesn't do well. They'd still probably have a little bit of like, I think they would have probably laid off people regardless. At the end of the day,
and
honestly,
they already are deeply fucked, but they would have no source of capital other than borrowing it or selling themselves to someone. The layoffs would have been way worse. There would have been no Sony to jump over to. There would have been no Sony to acquire one of the teams, the incubation teams inside.
The incubation team is the most important part because I haven't really touched on it too much on my channel, but they also did have smaller games, like we saw fighting games, etc. And those are the same idea, that they should have been dropping a lot of money on maintaining those and keeping those running. Because if they were good, which we don't know if they were or not, is a big deal. That's like potential future new IPs.
Or to employ them at various SIE studios. In some sense, like, Sony got the worst end of it, and Bungie got the best part of it. Like the Bungie, like
and the Bungie executives are the ones that are buying all these cars that people are making memes on, because the guy drops $3 million on fancy rich cars because he probably got and made a deal off of Sony, you know?
The executives, and I had read some stuff circulating, And I think this is an important point, and we brought this up in the past. The retention bonuses were significant. And this person had said, who was like in the know, people were getting 7 and 8 figure bonuses from it.
And these people are buying cars with it and not caring about stuff, or they just leave after the retention bonus is done, which makes sense in theory. I can't fault them too hard, but it's bad for Sony.
Like, people were getting very, very, very rich at Bungie. In the trenches, even getting rich at Bungie if they were there long enough.
I know someone who worked at Bungie right after the acquisition happened, worked there for a few months, got laid off, moved across country to be there. Not doing so good mentally, I'm going to be honest with you.
And
feel bad.
So something went really, really badly wrong here. And I continue to think that this sale was this acquisition seemed to happen with a level of cluelessness.
And I do kind of feel like this is kind of true. Like, they kind of probably vetted it. I think it's not necessarily cluelessness. I think maybe that was just more on the peak of the gaming market. As you guys probably know, like 2-3 years ago, like a few years ago, we had this huge like acquisition push with Xbox and Call of Duty. So then you also have like this extra like FOMO of like, we got to compete. What if Xbox buys more things? They got Bethesda. And then as well, there was also that huge gaming bump, you know, where a lot of games are being made, a lot of big fun games are being made. And they obviously kind of realize now since then, a lot of layoffs, not making money, overspending, and trying to maintain stuff. So I just think it wasn't necessarily due diligence. I just think it was a different type of market based on someone, you know, I've been involved in like Bitcoin and like, you know, stocks and all that.
About the financial realities or misreading the tea leaves on Bungie so significantly that I cannot believe that Sony not only bought this team and brought them in, but then gave them power over PlayStation Studios projects.
And I still agree, PlayStation, if they want to buy, should have stepped in day one. I respect them for giving it a shot, and I don't think people should critique PlayStation for moving on in if it's not profitable.
This is the same team that helped Sony to consider canceling The Last of Us Online.
That's another topic for another video. That's very true. Horrible.
Naughty Dog makes money. You know, to me, it seems if I were at Naughty Dog and knowing that, and that is apparently part of the story, it's like, fuck that. What is this insanity? What do these people know if they can't?
Yeah, if they can't even turn a profit, they're losing employees. They barely are on Sony's live stream. I would agree.
Keep their staffing up, and the bloat and the wasted money. I just don't understand why Sony ever needed to make this acquisition. It was stupid. It's not.
Well, I kind of touched on it. It's like you want to compete with Activision, Xbox going big, Bethesda. Like, it's not necessarily the smartest play. They like the live service aspect. I think it makes sense.
To say Bungie doesn't have a future. It's not to say Marathon's not going to be great. I don't know.
I've heard Marathon's going to suck. Those games are very niche. They're fun. I love Tarkov, but they're hard to pull off.
Or Destiny 3 or the Destiny 2 future support, whatever's going to be awesome in this new project. I have no idea. I'm just saying that it's an opportunity cost when you spend money on something like this and you could have spent it somewhere else.
Although, counterpoint, just for sake of argument, what else could they really have spent the money on? Because there's not really that many game studios and IPs that are available as of this current moment and second. So it's like, I mean, I understand it. You don't want to have an operating loss, but like, what else do you kind of really do to compete with Call of Duty of all things?
Right.
And
okay, no, I have no idea who these people are, really. I love how this guy just drops the right
now at the very
he's letting him talk, he's letting him cook. Again, I respect it, but this is the time it's like, okay,
best you're gonna have to rehabilitate Bungie yourself, because now you,
and it does look like they're going to Sony executives are moving on in,
own the cow for some
after they had to go and fire everyone, move everything, and probably even work and rearrange games. It's kind of a lot of effort
reason that you voluntarily bought for its
because you could just built that same exact team up, you know, like honestly. So the moral of the story for this one is I agree. I think PlayStation made a big mistake. I think they overspent on Bungie. It was not a play, not a smart call, and like they could have done so much more. I hope long term they can turn things around, but with all the negativity, man, it's been rough. So give me your thoughts and comments on everything down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have all those Twitter links down below and the Target things for the brand new summer holiday sale going on, all linked down below. #ad, and I appreciate y'all for watching. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below.